you're working so hard, you're seeing those NI contributions, I log in and check, and see that I've got my full year of contributions every year. Imagine at some point, someone then tells you, sorry, computer said no.
Thank you for working hard, but you're not getting your pension anymore.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
If they did that. Will the state pension become means tested? There has been a lot of speculation about this for the last few months, driven by the unsustainable nature of the UK state pension system. The government recently made winter fuel payments means tested, meaning that around 10 million people missed out on their usual £300 per year annual payments. And recently the government announced there's a £22 billion black hole in the public finances in the UK, driving further speculation that the government might explore things such as potentially means testing the state pension as part of their pension review and as they present a new budget very soon.
And means testing the state pension would mean that retirees who are on a higher bracket will earn less or next to nothing through their state pension. Now, this is hugely controversial and will be unpopular as millions of workers, they've contributed decades of national insurance contributions towards their state pensions, and they see their future state pension as an entitlement, not a benefit.
So today I want to answer some very important questions for you guys, just reading them right here. So we want to answer for you guys, how does the state pension currently work? That's the first one. Next, we're going to be sharing what are the challenges with the state pension right now. And then next, we'll talk about how could means testing the state pension potentially work. We'll then come towards the end by answering the question of how could means testing the state pension impact your retirement and our retirement as well. And then we'll wrap this up reflecting on what this means for us personally, as well as what action points you should be taking right now. For those who are new to our channel, my name is Ken. I'm a chartered accountant, former CFO, and a financial coach.
And I'm Mary, a business owner, an ex-e-business analyst, and a digital marketer.
Together as a husband and wife team, we run the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. We're also Sunday Times best-selling authors of our debut book titled Financial Joy, a 10-week plan to help you banish debt, grow your money, and unlock financial freedom. I'll link to it below and above for those who want to check it out. All right, let's just dive in. This is going to be really candid, right? Yeah. It's going to be really, really relaxing. We're going to be looking here to make sure we're giving you factual information on our phones.
Okay, so the first question to really ask is, how does the state pension currently work?
Okay, so the state pension is currently not means tested. That means that anybody, no matter your retiree status, whether you are somebody who's wealthy or not wealthy, you will get a state pension depending on the extent to which you've contributed in terms of national insurance contributions. The full state pension is currently £221.20 per week, which is around £11,502 thereabouts in a year. And you usually get that if you have contributed around 35 years worth of national insurance contributions. Now, for some people, the 35 years of contributions might be less than that number, or it could be more than that number because the rules have changed over time. There's also a basic state pension, a lower amount of £8,122 for the year for those people who retired before the 6th of April of 2016. And the final thing to mention as to how the state pension currently works at the moment is that there is also the triple lock, which is a major manifesto commitment by the new Labour government, where the state pension effectively rises each year by the highest of inflation, average earnings growth, and 2%. So that's how the state pension currently works at the moment.
Now, given that people contribute for all their working life, they see the state pension as an entitlement and not a benefit. However, the rules were changed in 2016 to change it to define it as a benefit. And a petition to get this change didn't get through the votes for it to be debated in Parliament and was therefore unsuccessful. Did you know about it? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, it'd be good to know. Now, what are the challenges to the state pension? That's the next question. So according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies, Here are some identified challenges. There are 4 of them we want to highlight. The first one is the aging population will add considerable pressure on public finances in the coming decades. Specifically, they said that there are expected to be 25% more pensioners in the year 2050 than there are today.
Wow.
Just pause and just think about that, right? This will increase the spending on the state pension, pension credit and winter fuel payments, expected to rise by about 1.2% of national income, as at the time it was estimated to be about £32 billion per year in today's terms by 2050. Now, there was also talk more recently of the state pension age rising potentially to the age of 71 by 2050, which will have a massive knock-on effect on even the private pensions that we have access to, because that gets later as well. And as a result of that would mean that fewer people will get access to their state pension or even access to their private pensions, much later in life. We made a video about this possibility of the state pension age rising to 71 previously. I'll link to that video below and above.
The second issue is that the triple lock indexation policy creates uncertainty around what the level of the state pension will be relative to average earnings for the public finances.
And the third issue stated by the IFS is that if the government wants to rein in the state pension spending, then relying only on raising the state pension age to achieve this, rather than moving to a less generous indexation like Mary mentioned earlier, would actually hit those with lower life expectancy harder.
Okay, now I don't know about you guys, but there is a mixture of confusion and also pessimism about the state pension. Now, just looking at the graph on the screen, 38% of people think that in the next 10 years, it would not keep up with inflation. A third of people do not think the state pension will exist in 30 years' time. And women lead when it comes to pessimism about the state pension.
So now, moving on to our next question, which is how could means testing the state pension actually work? I was doing some research earlier on this, and I'm reading something published recently by iNews. It says here that Sir Edward Trope, a former executive of HMRC and an advisor to the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, has said that a debate needs to be had around pensions, adding that we can all think of the wealthy individuals in this country and say, well, do we think he or she should have a full state pension? They also, in the same article, went on to quote someone from the IFS, interestingly, called Ben Zaranko, who told the Times that there's no reason why you couldn't means test the state pension to avoid targeting money at the richest pensioners. He went on to say, if you want to save big sums, you have to start touching some of the unpopular stuff. Now, that background already tells us a lot in that, there are clearly people who believe that the state pension could be means tested, even though, it could be a very, very difficult thing and challenging thing and very controversial thing to do. So what system could we refer to around the world? What are some examples of where this has happened around the world?
So it's currently being implemented at the moment in Australia, and I'm guessing that's what they would like to try and model here in the UK going forward. So the age pension, as they call it in Australia, is subject to an income test and an assets test for both you and your partner if you have one. So pensioners are paid under the test that produces the lower rate of payment.
Now, for the UK, obviously a different system to Australia, if they were to do this, according to the research we've done, there are 3 ways that they could potentially explore means testing the state pension. Option 1 is to make the state pension only available to people with income below a certain level, right? This would be quite a challenging option to do. Option 2 would be to do it based on a sliding scale. So, for example, reduce the state pension based on one's earnings, okay? Again, another challenging one to do. And a third option is effectively subtraction. Here, they could remove elements of a pensioner's benefits based on earnings, like they did more recently with the winter fuel payments as an example.
Now, all those options you mentioned will be unpopular, very unpopular, but they will remain options that are available to them. So for any means testing to begin, there would need to be a way of recording income, whether that's via self-assessment and the ability to challenge the assessment where people's income varies.
So they need to check somehow.
Yeah, so they may even use new powers to look into pension bank accounts to verify income. Imagine that.
Wow, okay.
And another challenge to means testing is that people who bought voluntary state pension top-ups due to being short of the qualified national insurance years, well, they would need to be refunded too, right?
Potentially with interest.
With interest, of course.
And how would they work that out and make that happen?
Yeah.
Let's move on now to look at how this could actually impact our retirement planning. Okay, so it's worth understanding that, because I've often heard the argument that the state pension is just such a small amount, and for some people it's a small amount, but it's actually a pretty significant amount when you start to consider what it represents for a lot of people. Okay, so although the full state pension, as that stands at the moment, it's £221.30 per week, or about £11,500 in a year. Now, although this will not provide a luxury level of retirement, according to the likes of the retirement living standards, it will provide a basic lifestyle, or it would supplement a mid-level lifestyle. Although it will not provide a luxurious lifestyle, it's worth noting that if you wanted to replace what the state pension represents, you would effectively need a vehicle, effectively some form of an annuity worth around £250,000 to create the level of income that the state pension would have been given.
When you look at it that way, that is actually quite significant.
Very significant when you think about it that way. In addition, it gets even more significant when you consider the situation for couples. By itself, 11.5 grand might not sound like a lot of money, but when you have two people in a relationship and each person gets about 11.5k, for example, that's about 22,000 to 23,000 pounds that is received potentially without being subject to tax. Although the state pension amount for some people obviously is subject to tax because state pension is taxable, but some people don't pay tax on it depending on how much they earn in a year. But for two people, it becomes very significant. The point I'm making here is that means testing and potentially removing the state pension is a huge deal for people and represents a big proportion of their future retirement plans. Now, we want to look up some data on this. The IFS have some interesting research on what proportion of people's retirees' incomes are made up of the state pension incomes they receive. They said, according to the IFS, among households of some people aged between 66 and 70 years old, where no one is in paid work, the state pension makes up, they've said, 71% of the income of the poorest 20% of people.
Wow.
And get this, it makes up 23% of the income of the top 20% of people.
That's so interesting. There's also a quote here from the IFS, which we're going to put up on the screen, and I'm just going to read. So similarly, Heidi Karjanian, senior research economist at the IFS, added, means testing the state pension may seem like an attractive option for targeting support to low-income pensioners, but it has a number of drawbacks. Private saving is an important part of the UK pension system, and most workers save into their private pensions to supplement income from the state pension in retirement. If the state pension was means tested, people could be deterred from saving into a private pension. So this is what could potentially happen, as higher private pension income would reduce the amount of state pension income pensioners would receive. Therefore, means testing a state pension would essentially reduce the return on private saving for some workers.
Wow. Okay, so that says a lot, right? Again, coming from the IFS, which is interesting because there have been some conflicting things. Because the earlier quote we gave was again from the IFS with the guy saying, yes, they can means test it if they really wanted to save big. And also their big report on their website actually shows their recommendations are that they don't recommend means testing the state pension. So it seems to be a few almost somewhat conflicting comments there. But the point being made here by Heidi is that basically it will disincentivize people saving into private pensions.
Absolutely.
if they did that, because what would be the point?
Exactly.
Why would you do that? Why would you bother?
I mean, we have our views that still contribute anyway, because these things are not guaranteed, but there definitely will be a change in behaviour in the way people save as a result of this, if it was to come into effect. Go ahead.
Now, we want to just talk about some action steps on what to do next. Yeah. Now, it's worth mentioning that Labour have not come forward and said, hey, we may means test the state pension. In fact, they've not said very much beyond the fact that they've said there's some difficult times ahead. They're going to need to make some very tough choices when it comes to the upcoming budget. That's roughly what they've said. But zooming out of this and thinking about this personally, right? We went and looked at our state pension forecast, right? And it said on there that we're due to get our state pension in the year 2051. Which is like, wow, that sounds like it's a long way away, but at the same time, it's not quite that long away.
It's actually
not. It's not that long. And on there, it said, we have around 10 years worth of NI contributions left to be entitled to the full state pension for the future. Now, thinking about it, although on a personal level, we've prepared our lives for the future, we've been working hard and assuming that we may not get the state pension, it kind of feels nice to know that there's that possibility that it might be there. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, because that's what we always thought we were contributing towards when we were paying our national insurance. We were contributing national insurance. So to be hearing that actually you may not get it, it's like, oh, hold on a minute. It's not what y'all been telling us when we were working hard,
Exactly.
And we've been thinking, okay, well, that's fine, it's for our future, but now we're being told otherwise. So, I mean, I get that it's not sustainable because of the aging population, people are living longer and all of that, but it's just an interesting one. It'll be interesting to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah. I actually want to hear from you guys in the comments. Do you feel like the state pension is your entitlement because you've been contributing for decades and this is your money effectively, your NI contributions? Or do you feel like the state pension is just a benefit? What do you guys actually think? If it's your entitlement and you feel like I've worked my thing off for years and I should be getting what's mine basically through the state pension. If you feel that way, we want to see you jump in the comments and react and let us know what you think. Okay. Now, just reflecting again personally, I kind of feel like it would be such a shame if they means tested it. There are pros and cons. I get that there are arguments for means testing it, but I just think it would be such a shame personally, if I'm thinking personally now, because I just think like you're working so hard, you've seen those NI contributions, I log in and check, and see that I've got my full year of contributions every year. Imagine at some point someone then tells you, sorry, computer said no.
Thank you for bringing it up, but you're not getting your pension anymore.
That would be, do you know how, that would be insane if they did that. So to that end, here are some action steps that we would recommend taking at this stage if you're not already doing these things. So the very first one is get the most out of your workplace pension. I mean, this is like a no-brainer point, but it's worth mentioning because some people are a bit relaxed about doing this. If you're getting your employer who is matching contributions and all those things, listen, take your free money, right? Particularly if you're on a high rate taxpayer or an additional rate taxpayer, because it's much more tax efficient for you to contribute into pensions, right? The second is if you don't have a private pension, a self-invested personal pension, a SIP, it's worth getting one because you get tax relief. It's a good way of reducing your tax bill. There are many providers out there. Just jump online and go and check them out. But I'll link below and above to one that we use ourselves if you want to check it out.
Yes.
What are the points?
Now, we've been talking a lot about pensions, but if access to your money is very important to you and you plan on retiring early, then you want to give priority to your stocks and shares ISA and max out the 20k free tax allowance. For more information on that, if you do have our book, check out week 9, which is page 288 of our book Financial Joy for the order of investing for early retirement versus later retirement.
Yeah, so this is all about like which account should I use? Should I use a general investing account, pension account, ISA, LISA? You know, they will all differ depending on your personal circumstances and goals. So in the book, we cover it in a lot of detail.
Yeah.
What's our next one?
So fourth is to check out your state pension forecast, which Ken mentioned, and your national insurance records.
Yes.
And sort out any issues with your national insurance records if there are any. So we're going to put some links to it in our description, so you know where to go to check those out.
Yeah, and trust me, these people do make mistakes because it happened to me.
Yeah.
And I had to fix it for 2 years for mine. So go check it out. Now, in terms of next steps, we're thinking about, you know, what else could I watch in this particular area, this particular topic around state pensions or pensions more generally, or more about retirement. We'll link, you know, over here to a video we made, you know, not too long ago about, you know, should I be prioritizing my ISA or should I prioritize my pension more so for my retirement? Definitely head over and check that video out.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always,
in all things be thankful and seek joy. Take care, people. Much love. Bye.